Hello DAZN fans, it's Adam Monk here again with another episode of Football's Hottest Takes. Now, I've spent the last week in Krakow with my mates on holiday in Poland, which has given me a bit of time to think about some new hot takes. And I've got three new ones. And I was debating this with my mates over there, and I probably won't be invited on the next one. They went, Adam, will you stop talking about football? Nonetheless, so there has been the Champions League draw and the Euros are, slowly approaching, some international fixtures going on right now. So that's prompted some new kind of hot takes. So nonetheless, let's get into them. Yep, that's right. Kobbie Mainoo should be the man in the middle for England, alongside, of course, Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice, sort of in that midfield three. Now, look, I know what people are going to say. It's the European Championships, the stakes are high, there's a lot of pressure, particularly playing for your country at such a young age when he's only 18 years old. But history tells us that this has sometimes worked for England, and I think Kobbie Mainoo is as good as some of the players in years gone by who have stepped up to the plate. Namely Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney, because they were just simply too good. And Kobbie Mainoo, I think, could be the missing piece in whatever jigsaw Gareth Southgate is trying to make in that England midfield, in terms of giving England enough balance to play the way they want to, rather than playing, Jude Bellingham at 8 as well as Phil Foden. You might not get enough defensive support for Declan Rice in that system. I think Mainoo would be a good link man, a good middleman between Bellingham in the sort of 8/10 and Declan Rice in the number 6 position to make this really work for England. Now look, the one thing I don't want to be is a hypocrite, therefore, this is what I said about Manchester United in the previous episode, so let's have a little flashback. Ooh. They play with no real identity, like they do not know what they're doing, who's going to press when, how to collectively press. They play with an air of cowardice as well when they go away to these top sides, like they don't even believe that they can really win and get a result. Not even win, just even get a draw, muster something. Yeah, all of that is still true. But look, amongst all the disarray and lack of synergy and chaos at Manchester United at the moment, there has been one composed, consistent within that midfield that has been their best performing player in the last 3 months, and that is Kobbie Mainoo, which is outrageous at the age of 18 because look, whatever you say about Manchester United right now, they're still an elite club. There's a weight of expectancy that comes when you pull on that shirt, and to be 18 years old and sort of almost be the calming influence in the team when, players don't really know when to not press and who to pass to and what runs to make. He's miles ahead of the rest of them in terms of getting out of tight spaces, tight situations, screening his defensive backline with hook tackles from in behind, knowing when and when not to play the right passes where that's switched over the top to the likes of Rashford and Garnacho, or just keeping things simple and keeping things ticking. And also, as the added bonus, he can actually drive forward from deep and assist his teammates and score goals for himself, as seen against Wolverhampton Wanderers a couple of months ago, which was the goal where people really started talking about him. So for me, hot take number one, play Kobbie Mainoo at the Euros, but don't just play him, start him in all the big games because he is that good, he is ready, he's shown it at Manchester United, and yeah, Gareth, listen to me, please. Yeah, that's it. Okay, next one. Kai Havertz, yes, Kai Havertz. A player that confuses me very much. I have no problem admitting that I've probably been proved wrong about Kai Havertz in the last 3 or so months. Because if you think about when he first went to Arsenal, first of all, I didn't really know what he was as a footballer. I didn't really know what he brought to the Arsenal side. I also didn't really know what he brought to the Chelsea side last season. He was gangly. He didn't look comfortable on the ball a lot of the time. He was kind of how I imagined myself if I was a Premier League footballer. I'm 6'3", bit lanky. It translated how I would look on the TV watching Kai Havertz in his early days at Arsenal. But then all of a sudden, he started scoring goals and he'd gone from being compared to the likes of my nan to the likes of Frank Lampard, which is quite a massive upgrade if you ask me. No, seriously, it's a massive upgrade. Now, as you'll be aware, Kai Havertz has replaced Granit Xhaka in that Arsenal system this season from last. Now, Granit Xhaka was a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder. He helped Thomas Partey out in defensive midfield. Kai Havertz maybe plays a little bit more advanced, but let's just compare them. Now, I don't want to be a stats nerd and get into all the nitty-gritty details, but let me just show you this. Now, Xhaka's in the blue and Havertz is in the green. Now, this is this season, and I know that Leverkusen play a slightly different system to Arsenal, but all these stats, and I'm not going to list what all these stats are, but it basically paints a picture of how creative a player basically is. And when it's this damning and this stark a difference, it really paints a picture that Havertz is a lot more of an all-rounder and, in return, has provided a lot more to Arsenal. And this is undeniable now with the late goals that Havertz has scored, namely against Brentford, both home and away. but he's also scored in 4 consecutive Premier League games now and took his tally to 9 goals this season in total, which is quite respectable considering the slow start he had. He's turned it around over the Christmas period, really, so you just have to credit him for that. And not only that, now he's playing with confidence, he's scoring goals, he's arriving in the right areas. I feel he's going to do the same for Germany in the Euros. And yeah, oh wait, he has just scored against France. Albeit an international friendly, but scoring against a side like France means he is doing the right things. And it was another one of those typical Havertz goals, really, arriving into the box at the right moment, knowing when to push, and, you know, a lot of the time tapping it into an empty net. It is very Frank Lampard-esque, like I said at the start of this segment, and he's just getting a knack for it. And the more you do that, the more you're going to become accustomed to it and score several goals. So he's a very good player, Havertz. I was wrong, I'll hold my hands up. And I think Germany, as the home nation, should really be looking at getting to at least the semi-finals. And I think Havertz is good enough, definitely, in terms of goal scorers, to take them there, because they don't have an out-and-out striker like a Harry Kane or an Erling Haaland. But I think Havertz will score enough, given how good Germany's midfield are, and wide players as well, to take them very far in the tournament. So this is some Havertz praise. Well done, Kai. On to the next one. Yeah, I think Atletico Madrid will probably reach the Champions League final now, having looked at the draws. Why do I think that? Well, how do I put this? Diego Simeone is evil. On their side of the tournament tree, they've got Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinals, and then they will play either PSG or Barcelona. And I think these 3 sides fall into Atletico Madrid's hands completely. They've tailed off a little bit in the Champions League in the last few years, Atletico Madrid. You'll, of course, remember that Liverpool game where they knocked them out at Anfield. That was really the last giant killing, I suppose you could say, that Atletico Madrid had. And that was 4 years ago now. But they've tightened the ship up, and I think they're on a bit of an upturn this season. They're averaging 2.38 goals a match and only conceding 1 on average so far in the tournament. But the main thing to look at here is the fact that they have only lost 1 game, and that was in the home leg to Inter Milan, which they, of course, then turned around. So they had an unbeaten group stage, have really tightened the ship, and in previous years, you know, it'd be a 2-legged tie, they'd lose one of them, or they'd lose a couple of group games. They've really tightened it up, and they have got the star man now, Antoine Griezmann. So then you look at Borussia Dortmund, the team they're next up to play in the Champions League. Well, they don't have a star man like Antoine Griezmann. Okay, you might argue Marco Reus, but I don't think he's as good as Griezmann. That's just my opinion. I think it's borderline fact, to be honest. Now, in terms of how Dortmund like to play in the context of the last game in the Champions League, which was a 2-0 win at home to PSV, a game they needed to win, they actually had less of the ball, which would tell you that they're a counter-attacking side by trade. But if there's one thing that Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone do, it is just stop that. Atletico Madrid will quite simply force Dortmund to have the ball and force Dortmund to try and have a go at Atletico Madrid with probably a bank of 10. And then what Atletico Madrid are ruthless at doing is scoring set-piece goals and then hitting Borussia Dortmund on the break themselves. They're the masters of this. And to be honest, I think Dortmund will come unstuck. Then if they were to play PSG in the round after that, okay, they have Kylian Mbappe who can kill any team like that. But you look at the goals that PSG scored against Real Sociedad, there were goals hitting behind to Mbappe. Atletico Madrid simply will not allow Mbappe to have that space. They'll let PSG have the ball, and they will hit them on the break. And I think PSG, look, they're known for bottling ties. Who's to say that they won't go through against Barcelona? I probably think Barcelona will go through in that tie as just a hunch. But I think if they were to play PSG, it'd be quite a similar story, and I think Atletico would be able to get the better of Paris Saint-Germain. In terms of Barcelona, I don't have as good of an argument because Barcelona did just win 3-0 at Atletico Madrid's home ground in La Liga. But in the Champions League, of course, it's over 2 legs, and the last time that those sides faced each other in the competition was when Barcelona were very, very good. They had Messi in his peak, they had Xavi and Iniesta still playing. It was the 13-14 season where Atletico went on to go to the final, and they drew at the Nou Camp 1-1 with a screamer you might remember from Diego, and progressed, and that was the last time the two sides met in the competition. I think history may well repeat itself. I think Simeone has pedigree in this competition, grit, determination, and when Atletico Madrid are sort of riding this wave of knocking out teams by sitting deep and digging deep and, you know, winning on shootouts like they did against Inter Milan, I think that they will go all the way to the final. I'm not saying they'll win the final because then they'll probably have to play Arsenal, Bayern, City or Real Madrid, which is a very, very different story, but the final in itself is an achievement, and I think Atletico Madrid will get there, so that's my hot take on them. Anyway, guys, yes, that was another episode of my sizzling hot takes that I've been mulling over whilst I've been in Poland. So we'll be back very, very soon with some probably more league-centric ones. Now the international break will shortly be over and the Champions League will be back as well, which will be very exciting. Nonetheless, so do not forget to subscribe. I've been Adam Monk. Have a lovely day or evening whenever you're watching this. Take care. See you soon. Goodbye.